Welcome to the Opposition Preview, where we talk to a Liverpool fan in this case, and it's our regular Neil. How you doing?
Very well indeed. How are you doing?
Not as good as you, to be honest with you. But anyway, your season, what are you making of it?
I mean, it's in lots of ways, it's excellent. It's become a little bit odd because they're obviously not playing as well as they were in February. It's not quite sort of fallen over the line territory. I don't think you can describe it as that yet. But I do think that they had 5 games in 15 days in February, and it felt as though the league had been won or lost in those games. And that's where I think it was won in the end. And I think it firstly took a lot out of them. So that put them out of Europe, along with obviously playing a brilliant Paris Saint-Germain side who were excellent against Villa last night as well. But they managed to do the business then. But I do think it just left them slightly shadowy for the rest of March. I'm not, let's be clear, they were good against Everton at Anfield in the 1-0. They deserved a little bit more than 1-0. I thought they could have been a bit better after it went 1-0. 1-0 was always coming. But they almost just decided, no, we'll just keep you at arm's length now and we'll see this game out. And that's a fair way to play football. Against Fulham, I thought they were really poor at 1-0. They didn't deserve to go 1-0 up. It was a long-range drive from McAllister. And I felt Fulham were just a little bit there for the taking. And then they gave them the encouragement that they needed, and Fulham enjoyed themselves massively through the rest of the first half and then managed to hold Liverpool off. So I don't feel as though, I don't think that necessarily you can say it's the same problem in April as it was in March. But I do feel as though, Sunday's a massive game for us, really. I think 3 more points. The week after that's Leicester away. And unless something radical changes at Leicester, you really struggle to see them keeping Liverpool out over the course of 90 minutes. So the next 2, this one on Sunday, I think if Liverpool can win, Arsenal have got a tough game against Brentford the night before, given the fact that they should be resting players because of where they are in the European competition with the result against Madrid. Then I think it could be another big step forward towards the title. And if you'd have asked any Liverpool supporter before the start of the season what constitutes a great season, they'd have said being 11 points clear with 7 games to go. That sounds like a great season.
Do you know your recent form? Is it just down to fatigue, or do you think there's an element of maybe the contract talk is influencing it, or is it the lack of form from your attackers as well? Because I think
there's a little bit of fatigue. I think there's a little bit of... ultimately, I think the sides have just committed a little bit to frustrating Salah, and whoever's played left wing or through the middle for Liverpool hasn't quite been able to take advantage of that. I think Diaz is a really interesting player. I think he was excellent against Everton. I thought he came on against Fulham and made a big difference. I think that you're able to risk there won't be massive output from him when he plays left-hand side. Gakpo's a little bit different. I don't think Gakpo's as exciting or as scintillating at times as Diaz, but he's got a really good knack of just kicking it in the goal, and you need to worry about that a little bit more. So I feel as though Gakpo being injured for some of this period, he wasn't fit to come off the bench even against Paris Saint-Germain in the second leg at Anfield. He genuinely looked like me out there in terms of his physical output. I think Gakpo coming into the fold, I think that can help, because what it means is Liverpool just got another sort of natural goal scorer from wide areas on the pitch. I think that's what Gakpo is. Diaz, as I say, is dribbling, scintillating, his work rate's exceptional, but he's just not quite the same as, ultimately, if he had sort of Gakpo's ability between the sticks, he'd be Mo Salah, is the essence of Luis Diaz. And most players aren't Mo Salah, but he's still a really, really good player. So I think that sides have just taken that gamble a little bit, and I think that's coincided with a little bit of Salah tailing off with fatigue as well, because of the amount that he's put in over the course of the season. So I think all round it's just been a little bit of not quite a perfect storm, because Liverpool have still been picking results up. Jota comes to the party to score the winner against Everton, but I think Jota is the sort of player who you've got to get in the game. He doesn't get the game himself. Diaz gets the game himself, but he doesn't have the output. Gakpo is a little bit of a halfway house between the two. Salah's Salah. So I think that, Liverpool do have a couple of issues in terms of how that attack's functioning. I think there's also just become a little bit of Liverpool looking to protect what they have at this stage of the season. No one wants to... You're carrying the vase across the room at this point. You don't want to trip up. You don't want to overcommit. You don't want to make any sort of daft error. So I think that's part of it as well. So and then the other thing that's happened is that we haven't had the right back. Bradley, Trent, and to an extent Gomez have all been out. So Curtis Jones has done a bit of a job there. Quansah did a bit of a job there, but neither of them are the complete package in terms of what you want. You know, I think Gomez would have been better than either of them really in the round in the position, although Jones does well in the derby. Bradley, I think being back for this one against West Ham will be really important and really useful. And he gets the assist for Diaz's goal against Fulham. And that's not a surprise as far as I'm concerned. He got 7 assists last season, Bradley, in I think it's about 18, 19 starts. He obviously made some sub appearances, but 7 assists from right back is good. And when you're not even starting half the games, that shows the sort of player that he is. He's not Trent. No one's Trent. But having a definite attacking right back, I think, will also help Liverpool's attack in general.
Yeah, I rate him highly, actually. I think, if Trent goes this summer as expected, I think you've almost got his replacement at the club already to some extent. I appreciate he might be young and inexperienced, but I think he's a wonderful player already, to be honest. I enjoy watching him play. I think he's quite an aggressive attacker as well, where he will consistently make those runs. And I find with Conor Bradley, he makes runs into the 18-yarder, which Trent sticks to the right-hand side and sometimes will come in field but stay outside the box and provide the crosses. But with Bradley, I feel like he's quite aggressive with his runs into that box, and it's very difficult to mark as well because the left winger doesn't always go with him. It's almost like that's not my territory, so I'm just going to wait. And then he finds himself unmarked quite a lot. He's a player I quite like, actually. So I think you're right there. In terms of the Carabao Cup, Champions League Cup, are you just shrugging and saying we got beat by the better team on the day?
Newcastle, let's be clear, in Newcastle, there's no shadow of a doubt they were better than us on the day. It's amongst our poorest performances of the season, which is a shame in a final. But I think that there was some hangover from what happened in Europe. I feel as though we can simultaneously be very gracious about how good Paris Saint-Germain were, whilst also saying Liverpool are unfortunate in the second half of the second leg not to have forced their way into scoring 1 goal. I thought Liverpool did enough to have scored a goal, and then that would have put it back on Paris Saint-Germain's toes in terms of, can you get one more to force extra time? They were better than us in extra time. They were better than us at their place. But even just before they score, we're absolutely battering them. The goal comes from nowhere. I think that they will. I have them certainly off the back of last night's results. I suspect they will go on and lift the Champions League this season. I think it might take a very canny Inter Milan side in the final to stop them. I think if it became toe-to-toe between them and Barcelona, I think they'd have a bit too much for Barcelona. If Bayern Munich squeak through, I think that they might just have a bit too much for Bayern Munich. They're likely to have Arsenal in the semi. I think that would be a massive challenge for them home and away. But I think that they may well just be able to keep Arsenal at arm's length. And I like Arsenal. They're obviously a really good side. To me, I just sort of have them as favourites. That's not to say they will do it. They were really good. But I think we were just a little unfortunate second leg. We didn't deserve anything from the first leg and we got the win. So again, over the course of the 2 legs, did we deserve to go through? The answer is probably no. But I think on the night at Anfield, if those players came away feeling like they had a little bit of a hard luck story, I don't think that that's unbelievably unreasonable. I do think that there's a little bit in how Liverpool approached both legs, but I think especially the second leg, that's worthy of the manager thinking about. I think it's what was hard was I think that Paris Saint-Germain were quite open to the idea of extra time because it meant they would have won the game. They had to win the game by 1. I think it's hard for any football manager to say to his side, we need to have an eye on extra time. If what you're saying we're going to get beat at home. That's not something that 25-year-old footballers want to hear.
Yeah.
But I think there's an argument that maybe we could have boxed a bit cleverer in terms of who started and who was coming off the bench. And it might be a little different next season when he's made a couple of changes, got a couple of his own players in, for him to feel like he's got more agency around maybe being able to plot 120 minutes, but say to the players he's only plotting 90. Ultimately what I feel is it might be more you stab McAllister on the second hour of the 120 minutes in the first hour. So maybe you start Jones, but it's hard to say to World Cup winning Alexis McAllister as you start midfielder. Well, that's because I think you're going to be more important from the bench. But if you've got a couple of other options that you've used over the course of the season, you can have those conversations a bit more. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, any season where you're in with a shout of winning any major honour in mid-April, that's a good season. If you're in a great position, that's a very good season. And if you then go on and win the honour, the league or the Champions League, it's a great season. Where Liverpool are the most successful club in English football history, and we're all very proud of that. But we've been going since 1892, and we've only won 19 leagues and 6 European Cups. That means that since 1892, which is effectively 130 years ago. We've only won a major honour. I know the European Cup hasn't been going all the way through, but we've only won a major honour in 25. Well, not even in 25 seasons, because a couple of years we've won league and European Cup in the same season. There's only really 22, 23 seasons where that's happened. So I think there's an odd sort of wider perception of Liverpool because of the fact that we have been more successful than anyone else, as though in some way, shape, or form, winning the league means that we should just all be a bit like, oh, well, it's one of them, but maybe we could have done a bit more. Absolutely not. This is a fantastic season. It's a fantastic achievement for the manager in his first season. A great achievement for a number of these players, some of whom are early in the Liverpool career, some aren't. It's genuinely absolutely brilliant. And, I don't think it should be sort of poo-pooed because we lost a final and things didn't go quite as we'd hope in Europe. Most years when Liverpool have won the league, they have not won a domestic cup, and then they haven't won in Europe. You take the league title and you move on and you say, what a year and what a team.
Yeah, I agree. I think Man City have almost not ruined it, but changed the perception of it a little bit, because people are just used to them winning the title plus.
Yeah, and I think you can go even further back. If you go back to sort of from the late 90s onwards, there's just a few more doubles. But the flip side of this is what everyone theoretically wants is for the Premier League to be stronger from 1 to 20, or at least from 1 to 17. Well, Newcastle have won a domestic cup. That's, it's meant to be the way it works, is that you don't have one team win 2-3 trophies in the same season. They are spread out. It's likely. In fact, whoever it is who wins, no, it's not inevitable, because Villa, I suppose, could still theoretically do an FA Cup and Champions League double. But let's be clear here: if Arsenal bring the Champions League home and Tottenham bring the Europa League home, then those, Chelsea bring let's go mad and say that it's an English clean sweep.
Yeah.
But what it will mean is that no side's won more than one trophy come the end of the campaign if we go on and win the league like we should from this position. And that's sort of meant to be what we want and the way it should be. So I think we shouldn't sort of lament it when it goes the other way, or act as though in some way, shape, or if Arsenal win the Champions League this year, I won't be saying, oh my God, they failed to mount a proper title challenge to Liverpool. Aren't they disappointing? I'll be saying, I'm dead jealous Arsenal won the Champions League. Good on them. Well done. So I think you've got to, it's at least theoretically the football we say we want is that the trophies are shared out.
Yeah. Right. I'm interested in your view on this then. Obviously, there's a lot of talk, and that's all it is at the minute, that Alexander-Arnold's going to join Real Madrid. I think it's fair to say there's an expectation he will be joining Real Madrid. What's your thoughts on this as a Liverpool fan? Just everything, the move, the way he's handled it, everything.
I think it's annoying is the best sort of... I think what's hard from a Liverpool fan perspective in general is he's the first one since Coutinho who's gone because he wanted to go. Players have left in the intervening period, but they've very much almost left on Liverpool's terms. Liverpool haven't come to a contract agreement with them, or we've chosen to sell them. There's not been a clear role for them. We've chose to cash in. So I think it's worth saying that from Liverpool's point of view, and why some Liverpool supporters I think are finding it quite difficult, is it's the first time it's happened since then. I don't think there is a parallel with the moves for Alonso or Owen or McManaman. And the reason why is because Alonso a little bit, but he was also an overseas player, obviously originally Spanish. Liverpool, we expect, it's reasonable to expect that Liverpool are going to be champions. So when Owen goes, yes, we go on and win the Champions League that year in ridiculous circumstances, but none of us expect that in the July before. When McManaman goes, Liverpool are bobbing around 5th or 6th. So I think there's a little bit of, if you're a Liverpool-born player and you're an unbelievable talent, one of the best in the world in your position, and you can win anything that you care to win at Liverpool, why on earth would you want to go? And I think that sort of is one of the things that sticks in craws and makes it a little bit different to other departures in the fullness of time. I'm a little bit sad about it because, my genuine view is a little bit of that, but it's also, I think there's adventures to be had with Liverpool that he's choosing to turn his back on. But Liverpool is a place, well, like most places, but Liverpool is a place is full of people who go elsewhere for work. Liverpool is not full of those people because they've left, or the Liverpool now is more and more people who come to Liverpool for work, which is a good thing. I'm not sort of going to get on my high horse about that. I've got, my best friend in the world went down to London for work, and that's where he works. So let's be clear, people get to make that sort of choice. I think that for me, it is a shame. Because I think he may be in for a little bit of a mini surprise, because I don't think he'll get the same backing when things don't go as well for him that he's had here. But then he might think, well, I don't want that anymore. I want to see how the real world, in inverted commas, is, the real footballing world is. This is what I want to experience, and I want to go for it. I'm watching Madrid the other night against Arsenal. You can make a pretty strong argument they could do with Trent Alexander-Arnold, someone who's able to progress the ball brilliantly from deep. And so, there's money involved. I'm sure there's unbelievable signing on privileges from Real Madrid that are exceptional and maybe even slightly questionable in practice. But, I think you've got Liverpool have lost footballers, so it's a shame. It's sad, but players have left Liverpool. Kevin Keegan left Liverpool and Kenny Dalglish joined the summer after. You've already mentioned Conor Bradley there as well. I think that's good news for Liverpool. I'd still expect them to strengthen in the area because I think Bradley is still a young player, and it's where he is with his body is a little bit complicated. I don't think he's necessarily one yet who you'd look at and say, he's 38 starts next season. I think that's a bit of an ask on him. But in the fullness of time, I think that Bradley can go on and get 250, 300 appearances for Liverpool playing right back. So it's all in. And I think there's one other moving part as well from the past. In the last 8 seasons, 5 times we played Real Madrid. So I think when you think about McManaman and Owen, that era, Liverpool just didn't play Real Madrid very often. The way European competition was constituted, it just didn't happen in anywhere near the same extent. There is a little bit in, and if outsiders feel Liverpool supporters are being a bit grumpy, that's fine, by all means, and a number of us will be. But it is worth saying it is going to a rival. It just is now. That was less the case in the past. It just is now. It's not quite the same as going to play for Manchester United or Everton. Don't get me wrong, but it's not that different to going to play for Chelsea. Madrid are Liverpool's rivals. We played them this season. The last time we lost the European Cup final, they beat us. The last time we went out of a European Cup quarter final, they beat us. It is a little different to the way it's been in the past, because as the footballing world gets smaller, then who you do or don't deem a rival for honours shifts. So I think that's in there as well. And that's the thing that I'm most grumpy about. And when he comes back with that Real Madrid side to Anfield, which will happen, he's going to get dog's abuse.
Yeah.
But the reason why isn't because in some way he's loathed. I think it'll be because people think it'll get in his head. Like the simple rule, the first rule of football is, can you put your opponent off? And I think that'll be a major runner and rider. Will be, he won't like this. He will not like it. And I think that will happen as and when he comes back. And that'll be the rationale. It won't be out of any sort of great loathing. I hope not anyway. I think it'll be much more off the basis of let's get in his head. Let's make it hard for him today.
That's a really interesting observation, because when you said that about how they're a rival now and you'll likely play them, and then I appreciate you're also talking about how regular Liverpool are qualifying for the Champions League, perhaps from years gone by, but also the way the new Champions League format is, you're guaranteed to play 2 teams from the top pot in the group, aren't you? So before, historically, when you did qualify, usually you'd be kept apart anyway, because it's like, well, you might meet each other in knockouts, but now there's an opportunity to meet them just in the group stage. So that's a really good point. I never considered it from
and you look at all the way through, and I think also, we would have this season eventually played the winners. If we'd have beaten Paris Saint-Germain, we'd be playing the winners of Arsenal versus Real Madrid. Now, don't get me wrong, Arsenal have done brilliantly and they've cut a swathe and they should go through. But we would have been walking into this point thinking, well, there's every chance we'll get Madrid in the semis if we'd have got through against Paris Saint-Germain. So, I don't think you can just sort of put that stuff to bed anymore. I think that they are, that as I say, for me, they're as much of a rival for at the minute for major honours as Chelsea are, because I don't see Chelsea win the league title anytime. Sorry, I don't see Chelsea getting regular Champions League qualification. I don't think they're going to get it this season. Champions League qualification. I could be wrong. I hope I'm not, because I can't bear them. But I'm just sort of the view that, well, it's the same as that, really. There's no on a sporting level, but I can see the lifestyle decision. I can see the idea of a different culture. I can see the idea of a different language. I can see why all of that, and a new competition. I see why all of that, and I think an easier, physically easier competition, but maybe tactically slightly more nuanced at times competition might be appealing to Trent. But all of it is, it is worth saying that at some point he may well be trying to stop Liverpool win a trophy, and when that happens, he will be responded to by the Liverpool crowd in a way that you'd expect of anyone who's trying to stop Liverpool from winning a trophy.
I'm not going to lie, as a neutral, looking forward to it. I wouldn't be missing that game as a neutral. From your team to my team, Neil, what do you make of West Ham?
Odd. I was obviously a keen admirer of the result against Arsenal, then went and got a good result against Leicester. And I thought this looked like a team that's back to enjoying itself. And I don't, from afar, I think there's been a couple of injury issues that have given the manager a couple of questions since then. But I wouldn't have expected West Ham to be on no wins in 4. At any point, I wouldn't necessarily have expected West Ham to be on 4 wins in 4, let me be clear. But I wouldn't have expected West Ham to be on no wins in 4 right now, because I felt as though there was a good little communion between player and manager and fans. It felt like there was a sense of togetherness that had been lost under the what we can just call the Lopetegui waste of time. But I think that's become the whole season from the outside looking in. I feel as though West Ham have just accepted that this season's unfortunately become a little bit of a write-off for everyone involved. I think that's a bit sad when that happens, not least because you've got supporters paying through the gate. But I think also for those players, football careers, you get maybe 16, 17 seasons if you're a really good player. Right now, will any West Ham player, apart from maybe Scarles, look back on this campaign with any degree of fondness in terms of their professional career? The answer is probably no. That's not to say that people haven't acquitted themselves. Well, I think Wan-Bissaka's had an excellent year. I think he's probably, you might disagree, but from the outside looking in, I think he's probably looked like all-round your player of the year. Yeah. I think that within that, I think Ward-Prowse is probably pleased to be back at West Ham after a bit of a difficult time, having gone out on loan. But it's certainly the most miserable I've ever seen Mohamed Kudus look in the last 3 seasons or so. Bowen, who, is in so many ways such a bright spark, just sort of look as this vague body language of, will this end soon, please? And none of this is to say that the wrong manager's in charge now, because the right man or a perfectly good manager, a manager who suits, is in charge now. That's not to say that next season, when it all goes back to zero, this is what football does. West Ham couldn't be top 8. I don't think that's that difficult to imagine how that happens. I just think it's a shame that the season's just become a complete write-off. And I think genuinely the sole reason why is a bad summer with a bad appointment and bad transfer decisions. And they're not even necessarily themselves all bad players. They just weren't the right players or the right players for that challenge in that moment. And I think that's a real shame. And I think that the people who are running West Ham are genuinely a bit culpable for that. And I don't know quite how, or if we want to be, tarring and feathering people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not necessarily into that either. But I think come the end of the campaign, a little bit of a public apology along the lines of, have we just wasted everyone's time a little bit? Because I think that West Ham there's no way West Ham are the 16th best team in the country, but they sort of have been this year. There's no way it's the 16th best squad. I'd be amazed if West Ham finished 16th next season. Genuinely amazed. But you have almost got to go through the process of finishing 16th now. So it gets to the end and it's 0 again, and then you're bottom because of alphabetical order, but it gets itself sorted out as it moves forward.
Do you think we've got the right one then in Potter, or as close to the right one as we can get?
The right ones, these fellas, they come and go and they move around, but I think Potter's a perfectly good, serious manager. I think he's tactically smart. I think he needs a bit more pace to work with in the whole side, and I think that's what he'll probably be looking at in the summer. I think he's got to have a year that's not... I don't think you get rebuilding now. I think a little bit of what he's probably doing at the minute is almost an extended pre-season, and it might be that part of the reason why the results aren't great recently is maybe he's looked at it and thought, the smartest thing I can do here is just have a look at a number of players, try some stuff, see what happens. So I'm stealing a march on next season. Whereas Bournemouth, as an example, the managers ran them into the ground. They're doing the best they can. They're still trying to compete, but he's not learning anything new now going into next season other than these are all goosed. It might be that Potter's learning a thing or two tactically about what his players can and can't achieve for him that we don't really get to see because we're not football professionals, but he's pulling that out the bag at the minute. So I think he's absolutely fine. I think he's a good manager, and I think he'll see West Ham as a long-term project that he can get a lot out of. And as long as the results are there to a certain level, I think he'll have West Ham as a base of operations, which is probably around 12th, where there might be a season where 6th, 7th, 8th is possible. There might be a run in at the minute. If you imagine 2 seasons hence where things have gone well, where if it's 5th place for the Champions League again and West Ham are sitting 7th, and if with 6 games to go, the ball breaks West Ham's way, you never know your luck. I think that's what you're looking at. And so I think he can get you back at playing semi-regular European football. And the thing about that is that there's now European heritage at West Ham. I expect the next time West Ham qualify for a European competition, they're all over it and the fans are all over it and everyone knows what the job is and everyone believes. And especially that'll be the case while Jarrod Bowen's there as well.
Right then, on to Anfield on Sunday. How do you see this one going?
You haven't been whacked under Potter. You've been whacked this season, my God, but you haven't been whacked under Potter. And I don't see that changing. I can see it being quite a tense affair. I can see Anfield being quite tense. I think what Liverpool would like more than anything is an early goal, but I don't think they're going to get one. So I feel as though Liverpool will win the game with 2 second-half goals, and manage to keep West Ham broadly at arm's length through that process. But I think for an hour or so, it won't be at all comfortable for Liverpool. So I'm expecting a difficult game. I'm not expecting anything straightforward, but I am simultaneously expecting Liverpool to win. I think it might come down to strength and depth from the bench from Liverpool's point of view, certainly in terms of seeing the game home. So yeah, I'm not expecting a feast. I'm not expecting to come out of Anfield absolutely buzzing, other than with the 3 points and another step forwards. I think the bits that make you buzz have happened, and there'll be one more day where they happen, hopefully, for Liverpool. But I think it's just a matter of getting the job done, which I think they will just about have enough to do against West Ham, but I'm not expecting anything ridiculous.
Crystal ball time then. What are you going for? What's your score prediction?
Liverpool 2, West Ham 0.
Neil, thank you so much to you guys at home. Neil is from the Anfield Vamp. All the links to his social media will be in the description below if you want to hear and see more from him. But thank you very much. Look forward to catching up with you next season, hopefully discussing West Ham's European push. Yeah, fingers crossed. I hope you're right. But you guys at home, if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Please do drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up. Subscribe to Jammers Chat, and we'll catch you in a bit.